when you believe in your product, like I know you have an amazing product, it's just amazing, and you believe in what you do, you know that the person you speak to, you're going to make their life better or you're going to make their business better if they purchase your product or service. If you have that conviction, you almost approach it like you have, if you don't buy from me, I'm doing you a disservice. Your life is not going to be as good. It's almost like I'm not doing this for me, I'm doing this for you.
Hello, my friends. I hope you're doing well. Today, I have a really special guest, Allan Langer. We actually connected when I was a guest on his podcast, Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails. And I really was drawn to him because not only was he a great interviewer, he asked me really thoughtful questions, but I soon discovered that he has this amazing tight-knit community on LinkedIn as well. And when I was invited to that group, I felt so welcomed. The dynamic was just beautiful in there and lots of wisdom being shared around marketing, around sales. So Allan is a best-selling author, sales trainer, keynote speaker, podcast host, and marketing expert that has close to 3 decades of experience in the world of sales, content marketing, consumer influence, and what he calls the art of inherent human behavior. His book, The 7 Secrets of Selling More by Selling Less, is an award-winning bestseller on Amazon and has been featured and interviewed on over 100 podcasts and radio shows. And he has an incredible TikTok channel, which I will link in the description, that you definitely have to check out, where he's always sharing valuable tips and secrets on sales and marketing. So thank you for being here, Allan. I'm so glad you're here.
Wow, that's quite an introduction, Emmy. Thank you very much. I'm flattered and humbled at the same time.
Yeah, of course. So you have this perspective around sales that I think I'm really drawn to, because what is often overlooked in this online world is we really have to consider where the consumer is in the customer journey and speaking to them in different ways depending on their level of awareness and where they are in that journey. So can you share a tip with us around maybe one of the really common mistakes people are making around sales, and what we can do about that?
Well, it's really interesting that you brought that up, because I literally, the last video I posted, or the last post that I made on LinkedIn and on TikTok, was about the buyer's journey and how many companies or even sales reps don't really pay attention to the journey. They just go right to, I need to sell the product. And I tell many of the people I train, everyone's not ready to buy your product when you're ready to pitch your product. You have to understand that. Like, everyone thinks, oh, everyone's ready to buy, and that's not true. They're part of a journey. So the first part of the journey is the awareness stage. The awareness stage is, oh, I have a problem. Now, sometimes people can be made aware of a problem that they didn't know they had, but usually they're not ready to buy at that point. And then there's the contemplative stage where they're okay. They're okay. Now I need to solve the problem. Now I'm going to compare products and start looking into them. I'm going to start doing the research. Then there's the decision. The decision process is when they're ready to buy. But what is very important is, if you the language that you use in all 3 phases is completely different. So if you start using decision language like buy my product when they're at the awareness stage, they're not going to buy. Or if you're using awareness language when they're at the decision stage, it's too passive, they're not going to buy. So not being aware that the customers normally have this journey, not all of them, but there's a lot of impulse buyers out there. But in a B2B world, it's pretty much going to go through that sequence of stages. And if you need to be aware where your prospect is in that stage or in those stages.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something that I see really often, say Facebook ads or even just social media posts. That's like, hey, buy my thing. And there is very little attention paid to that nurturing aspect, that relationship building aspect. And I think it's important to consider the natural tiers of human relationship building. Essentially what a lot of us are doing are going up to a stranger and asking for their hand in marriage, right?
Right,
So
right.
what would you recommend that we do to build on that relationship? What should we do instead?
Well, what you're referring to when you see the social media stuff is all of that stuff, advertising, well, not advertising, but most of that social media stuff is built for people who are in the decision stage. They're ready to buy. So it's a shotgun approach. If there's 100,000 people and they do 100,000 ads and 1,000 are ready to buy, they're going to capture those 1,000 people. They don't care about the assessment stage. They don't care about the research stage. Those are made to, like, I need this. It's good timing. It literally comes down to timing, because you're not going to get the person in the awareness stage. Now, I've seen some advertising that works on that. Like, they try to make you aware that you have a problem and they kind of guide you along in a marketing type of funnel. You'll see really good email funnels done that way, where they'll just kind of introduce themselves and, hey, we're kind of out there. And you start thinking about, oh, you know what? Maybe I need an electric bike. I'm just using this as an example. Like, but you never thought about it. But, yeah, I could use an electric bike instead of taking my car to work. And you get the next email and the next email. Now they're starting to get into the research stage. And then you get them on email number 10 in their decision process. So you kind of want to, and the awareness stage is simply about things that they may not be thinking about.
Yeah.
That your product exists and this is why it exists. And we can help if you have a problem. And that's it. You don't want to do any selling at all in the awareness stage. It's called the awareness stage for a reason. So
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's so important, and I think also as business owners, many of our audience are coaches, are service-based providers, and the thought of even the word sales makes some people kind of cringe, right? We have this idea that sales is like you pursuing somebody and you like pitching things, and there's like this element of kind of aggressiveness to it, I guess. And I was terrified of sales when I first started. I would do anything possible to avoid a sales conversation and just, type my responses over email. What can you share with us to help like ease that anxiety and maybe reframe the concept of sales?
so this will be a kind of a two-tiered answer. So you hit on really the basis of my book. The 7 secrets to selling more by selling less. I wrote it because people hate salespeople. Nobody wants to meet with a salesperson. In fact, the very first chapter of my book, I talk about a survey that I did where I wrote my entire book in a coffee shop in my little hometown here in East Greenwich, Rhode Island. And for 2 weeks, I asked everyone that walked in the coffee shop the same question. Do you like meeting with a salesperson? And all 231 people said no. And it wasn't even like, yeah, sometimes, or, when I need to, but everyone's like, hell no, I hate salespeople. And I was like, wow. But when you think about it, everybody has to buy something. Salespeople had to sell something, but there's that disconnect. Like, why do people hate salespeople? And it's because salespeople have always been selfish. It's always about been making the sale. So take that back to the answer to your question. You, as the person who's trying to sell something, you now feel like that icky salesperson that you hate. You don't want to come across that way. So then you avoid the sales conversation. Or when you're having the sales conversation, you become so passive to avoid sounding like a salesperson that you can't sell anything. And it hurts you, it hurts the consumer. And how I attack this is like, when you believe in your product, like, I know you have an amazing product, it's just amazing, and you believe in what you do, that the person you speak to, you're going to make their life better, or you're going to make their business better if they purchase your product or service. If you have that conviction, you almost approach it like, if you don't buy from me, I'm doing you a disservice. Your life is not going to be as good. It's almost like, I'm not doing this for me, I'm doing this for you. Forget that I'm selling this. Just look at, if drinking this coffee right now is going to make your morning so much better. It doesn't matter that I'm selling it. It's my job to make your life better. So I want to figure out how to get this coffee in your hand. And when you approach it from that excited standpoint and that I am going to really help you standpoint, the sales kind of go away and you're just there to help them. And that kind of just flows into the closing portion of, all right, how do I get this done? But if you're like, all right, I hope they buy my coffee. So can you, this is really good coffee. It has 16 cubes of ice in it and it's been around for 16 years and you're gone. You don't want the coffee anymore. But I'm like, Emmy, imagine taking a sip of this coffee and how much better your morning will be. You have to buy this, right? And that's the difference.
Right. I love that. It's a seemingly small but very powerful paradigm shift where we're coming from a place of service. And I think that's ultimately what makes the whole sales process and relationship building process and even business building process that much easier. Like really remembering our why and really building relationships from that place. So that leads me then to confidence around pricing. You know, sometimes when we are starting out and we're still building our clients and we're a little bit shaky on like, do I really offer this amazing result? Do I really offer this amazing transformation? And that inevitably impacts pricing. I see a lot of business owners underpricing themselves or having this belief system that, oh, I have to charge premium. So they're charging a huge price tag on something that maybe they haven't even practiced much yet, or they haven't delivered much of yet. What would you say that somebody who is putting together a new package and they're wanting to bring it into the world and they're feeling a little shaky about pricing? You mentioned this topic once of allowing your customers to build the price. That was really intriguing to me. Can you speak more to that?
Sure. So the first thing before I answer that question is you have to be confident in your pricing. If you're not confident, like you mentioned, someone puts together this exorbitant price, but if they're not confident that they're delivering that, they're not going to sell it. So you have to be 100% confident this $24.99 price tag, they're going to get every penny worth of that. And that'll come across in your conversation. But here's where reps really make a mistake and they struggle with it because almost everyone in a pricing presentation waits till the end or to the proposal phase to surprise the prospect with the price. And when I say surprise, 100% of the time, if the customer is not prepared for what that price might be or what that price range might be, it doesn't matter what it is, they're going to think it's expensive because they have no basis of comparison for the price. So you could have, like, for example, I'm gonna give us a personal example. When I looked into your services, if you actually prepared me better for the price, like when I first saw your, not that your price is worth every penny. I'm not, don't get me wrong. But when I first saw it, I immediately said, that's expensive. But there would have been a way where if you kind of just said, you know, in this industry, you can get this, you can get what I provide, you can get this done from between $10,000 to $100,000 or 20,000 to 50,000. Now in my brain, I'm thinking, okay, that's my range. And you anchored those prices to me. Then when I get your proposal, instead of being surprised, I'm like, okay, that's where I expected it. Because now you're telling me about the value and that value is behind the price. So building the price eliminates that as well. So let's say now a lot of people can't do this because they're kind of set in their pricing as far as, let's say it's a product. That's the product is the price. But if you have ways that people can choose to build the product or build the package that you offer, now they own the price and it's not you giving them the price, it's them choosing the price. So you see that example now, pretty much everyone starts their buying journey for a car online these days because they don't want to go to the car dealership. Everyone, I haven't met a person in my life, neither have you, who said, wow, I really liked my experience at the car dealership today. It was wonderful. No one ever says that. And what's happened is so many people hate going. Now you design your car online. But it's brilliant because you're sitting there, you're picking the color, the wheels, the radio, the air conditioning, everything, and the price is moving up and down as you choose them. Then you choose the car you want and the price you want. You've already bought the car in your brain. You walk into the dealership, said, here's my car, this is what I want. And if you can do that with your product, people for the most part will buy it because they designed it. They chose it. It's almost like when you're picking apparel. You choose, you know, you want to buy a sweatshirt, you pick the color, you pick the size. Every time you click, you buy a piece of that. You own it more and more. So if you have a pack, let's say you had uh your offerings, if you can break it into packages that people can actually design each package, you'll actually sell more because they're much more involved in producing what they want to buy.
Interesting. I love that. You know, and in some ways I kind of know that too. Fairly recently, well, I don't know, about a year and a half ago. This thing with like online marketing, and there is this tendency to withhold the price till the very end, especially in product launches, you know, and program launches. And then everybody is surprised on the last day with the great unveiling of this, you know, 5-figure program or something. And I never really liked that approach, because not only are then a lot of the audience, they're kind of shell shocked as to, you know, oh, this is what I'm buying. But then it's also a lot of stress for the business owner to then, on the last day of the launch, kind of have your fingers crossed, hoping and praying that somebody's going to buy on the last.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I started to just tell people about the program, like from day one, even before the launch had began, I immediately got feedback that I so appreciated that. Like, you weren't hiding anything. I knew what I was buying. I knew that that was a price point. And I think that creates a lot of ease in the seller or in the buyer, you know, and what they're getting into.
And it also, when you're doing that type of launch and you're getting to the point, you know, you're taking them through to the point where you're going to unveil the price at the end. The price not being there is very distracting, because as you're reading through the marketing copy, you're like, all right, how much is this? You're scrolling, how much is this? How much is this? And you're not really seeing the value behind it. Whereas if you kind of just talk about that up front, or at least anchor some pricing, so the person knows, all right, this is going to be around. Now I'm going to read a little more. I'm really going to digest the value of it, rather than wondering the whole time how much this is.
Right.
So that's another thing, is not knowing the price is psychologically distracting.
Wow. My mind is blown right now. Give me something else. What's another like counterintuitive thing that we should be doing? Because I feel like, you know, the marketing landscape, we just kind of follow what the predecessors have been doing, and it's not
Yes.
necessarily right or effective.
Well,
So
what happens is the marketing, and you know this, it's the big shiny object. Everyone like sees the new thing, or, oh my God, this guy, you know, he's showing his bank account, you know, like, oh, this is so successful. I just had a $25,000 deposited today, you know, all that stuff. And then people jump on that impulse kind of thing. But so I don't think most of your audience is there. And the people I deal with are not there. Those are, if you want to do that, you want to go down that road, go ahead. I would feel like I'd need to take a shower with that kind of stuff. But here's another tip that many business owners and sales reps forget about or don't consider. And I've been concentrating on this a little more recently, because I just I'm out there as a sales trainer. I'm out there as a sales coach. But what I find is people hire me and they say, "Okay, train me to do sales. I sell this coffee, train me to sell the coffee." But when I start asking questions, I realized that the marketing messages that got the customer in front of the sales rep is different than what the sales rep's saying. The sales rep is following whatever recent sales program he or she just went through, but it doesn't match the marketing messages of the coffee. So then I wind up saying, well, let's look at your marketing message. Let's look at how the prospect got to the sales door. Now they got to the sales door, they're ready to open the door. They're probably, you know, again, doesn't this, they're at some sort of stage. So they open that door. Rather than going through the sales training process, you have to figure out where they are from the messaging that got them there. And that has to be congruent. And so many people and reps and business owners say, I'm going to buy the challenger sale. I'm going to buy this sale. I'm going to buy all of these different methods, but they ignore the rest of the company. It's almost like sales is on an island, and it's not. Once you put everything together, like this is what we spoke about to get to the customer here. The customer is now in the the first stage of buying, you approach that accordingly. Okay, now the customer's here, they're in the decision stage, you approach that accordingly. And these are the messages that they heard. So don't forget about what the journey the customer was on to get to the sales door.
Yeah. This is so, so helpful. Remember where the customer is at in their journey
In
and
their journey.
speak to them in that level.
Yep.
It's been so, so valuable. Thank you. And you taught me a thing about my own sales process too. So I'm going to work on that one.
We can talk more offline if you want to.
Okay, sounds good. If people want to find out more about you and connect with you, where should they go?
So LinkedIn is the easiest page. It's Allan Langer, Allan, and then Langer. My website is allanger.com, ALLANGER.com. And that has all my links to everything. You can get my book there. You can follow my podcast there. Everything is right there.
Awesome. Great. And we'll be sure to link everything in the description as well. Thank
Awesome.
you so much for being here. Let's definitely touch bases again soon. And I look forward to speaking with you again.
You got it. And enjoy your coffee. I'm going to give you some free coffee today.
Cheers.
Thanks, Emmy.